Welcome to the complete animation of Faline from Bambi and Bambi 2. So for this video, I thought it would be fun to splice together the two movies in chronological order. And so because Bambi 2 is an in-between quel, I'm not sure if that's really a very good word to describe it, but most people understand what you mean. And so the events of Bambi 2 take place between the time jump that happens in Bambi 1, where Bambi learns that his mother died, and now he has to grow up with his father. And I think that the two Bambi movies are very interesting because they are unapologetically animated movies, but they take place in a world, a circumstance that you really don't see anywhere else, with fairly naturalistic animals that are in a completely wild environment, and you don't see that very often. And the forest in especially Bambi 2 is almost as much a character as any of the other characters. I think that Bambi 2 is one of the few straight-to-video Disney animated sequels that I just like in every way more than the first one. And working on these two videos side by side, working with the footage from the first original Bambi that came out in the 1940s and Bambi 2 that came out in the mid 2000s, like, there is a really wide gulf between these two movies, and the world of animation had evolved a lot since then, to the point where a lower budget movie that was made for a straight to video, not the prestigious, full theatrical release, a straight to video sequel can, in my opinion, exceed almost everything that the original film did, especially visually. The original Bambi is very inconsistent in its visuals. There are a lot of scenes, like the really, iconic scenes like Bambi and Thumper playing on the ice together, that are perfectly animated. They are animated to the point where, animators to this day still study it because of just how absolutely amazingly animated it was. And then there are scenes like when Bambi goes to the meadow and sees all the bucks running around getting ready for the great prince to show up. And that scene, holy cow, is filled with so much lower quality visuals. Like when there are dozens of deer on screen at the same time, the quality of each of them dips down really hard. But that sort of dip in quality, you never see it here in Bambi 2. This movie is basically consistently high quality in everything it does. I don't think that Bambi 2, its highs quite reach the highs that the original film does with its, premiere scenes. But what Bambi 2 does do is make it so that every scene has a minimum bar of quality that never drops. The lowest lows of Bambi 2 are miles ahead of the lowest lows of the original Bambi in terms of, consistency. And I've heard some people say that they like it when, some shows aren't always, the most strict about staying on model, and they think there's a charm to a character looking a little bit wonky compared to how they do in some other scenes, and I'm not like that. I like it when animated characters are on model every time, all the time. And Bambi 2 does that. Bambi 2 is, I think, better than the first movie. And the sheer expressiveness of the characters in Bambi 2 and the way that the animators just use the characters' ears so well, it's so good. Like, you can tell that the people who worked on Bambi 2 really knew what they were doing. And Bambi 2 also fixed a lot of the issues with Bambi 1, because if you're familiar with classic Disney animation, you'll know that one of the things that they like to do is have different levels of detail for characters. Where if a character has an extreme close up with their face, then they start adding details that aren't there before. Especially eyelashes. Like, you look at Friend Owl in the first Bambi, and it's like, oh wow, they really gave him the eyelashes in some of those scenes. And Bambi 2 doesn't do that, because Bambi 2 has learned a lesson that I've internalized, and that is, don't change the character model when they zoom up to the screen. Like, just keep the exact same model and, just draw the lines thicker in order to make it so that it still looks right. Don't give the character extra eyelashes where they don't have it before. Just give them, the same eyelashes, but draw them thicker to show that, they're closer to the camera. Yeah, that's a thing that I really don't like in classic Disney animation. All those different levels of detail. It's like, it's something that can work. I think a good example of it working is Gendy Tartakovsky's Primal. There are a bunch of scenes where it zooms into the character and then adds extra detail, but it's done in a much smarter way, and in a way that doesn't just throw eyelashes on characters in a way that doesn't look right. So one of the other things that I'll say about the difference between Bambi and Bambi 2 is Bambi 2 actually uses Foley. Because the original Bambi had basically no sound effects. Very few sound effects. A lot of what it did was instruments that played when a sound effect should play. And I'm not going to say that it's bad, but I will say I don't like it that much, and I would have preferred it if they had actually had naturalistic sounds to go along with the naturalistic setting. And Foley artists are a completely different breed. If you ever go to an animation studio and you see like the behind the scenes of stuff and you see how the Foley artists live, it's like they've got an entire room filled with the craziest stuff. They've got rocks to bang together. They've got boxes filled with leaves. They've got old shoes that they can use to go through the leaves. They've got boxes of all sorts of materials, slabs of concrete. It's just anything that they can think they can use to make some sounds, they have it. And then they have really high quality microphones that they can put right up next to it. Like, Foley is something I really like. And the first Bambi doesn't have it, but the Bambi 2 does. Although I will say Bambi 2 isn't all sunshine and rainbows. I think that Bambi 2 has some not great songs. When I first heard the songs, I thought that they were really bad, but now I think they're just not great. So I guess even me, who disliked something at first, can grow to not straight out hate it eventually. In fact, I think that's basically the only criticism I have of Bambi 2. I love the story, I love the characters, I love the animation especially. Basically, the only thing I don't I think was a clear miss in Bambi 2 was the songs. But if that's the only thing that's wrong with it, then that's pretty good. So, Bambi and Bambi 2. Both really good movies. Highly recommend both, especially Bambi 2. Thanks for watching.